What's up, guys? It's Dom from Cloud9, and today I'll be breaking down patch 10.18. Alright guys, so let's get into the patch itself. I'm going to be starting with all the champions that have been changed for this patch. We start with Ahri, which I hope to God that this is a buff because the champion has been really weak for a long time. So for Ahri, the passive replaced with Q passive, where now any spell can heal. W now grants movement speed, deals 200% damage to low health minions, and better targets low health minions. Okay, so this is good because it helps the farming already. We'll read the quick brief right here. Ahri's identity and gameplay have become a little muddled over time, and she isn't as charming as we'd like her to be. We're making some kit changes, especially to her W, to reinforce an identity of a fighty mage who can weave in and out of fights as she looks for the perfect moment to strike. In addition, we're shifting her Essence Thievery from her Q passive to open up more opportunities for her to reap its healing rewards when trading with enemy champions. Altogether, she should feel equipped to Spirit Rush into more combos and outplays. So the main thing that I'm hoping for here is just more damage in general. Movement speed, utility, healing, all that stuff is good, but the problem with Ahri right now is that even if you hit a full combo, you don't actually win trades for some of these other champions that are really strong right now. If you take an Orianna, if you take a Syndra, these types of champions, they just simply out-damage with their combos. And Ahri, it feels like even if you hit everything, you still lose out. But let's look into the actual changes themselves. Passive, Vastaian Grace, or Vasatian Grace. Ahri gains an Essence Theft stack for each enemy hit by her abilities, up to 3 of them per cast, so this used to be the Q passive, and storing up to 9 at once. Upon reaching 9 stacks of Essence Theft, Ahri's next spell consumes the stacks to heal Ahri for 3, 5, 9, 18 for levels 1, 6, 11, and 16, plus 0.9 ability power for each enemy hit. And they removed the Vasaian Grace, which says Ahri no longer gains 20% movement speed for 3 seconds when she lands 2 ability hits against a champion within 1.5 seconds, which I believe is moved to W. Q lost the passive that they now put on her passive, or her actual passive, so it's no longer a Q passive, it's just a champion passive, which is better in general because now it is procced if you don't start Q, for example. W is Foxfire, now grants a burst of 40% movement speed, decaying over 1.5 seconds at cast, now deals 200% damage to minions below 20% health. So this helps just hitting low life minions. You can W and it will actually prioritize the low life minions, which will help you CS a little bit, like under turret and things like that. The cooldown was reduced to 10, 9, 8, 7, 6 seconds, so actually increased, but they nerfed the ability. The cost is up to 50 mana, so we'll have to see how this actually works out. The 40% movement speed burst sounds like it would be good. I mean, it's better than the 20% movement speed. So definitely more mobility here overall in the champion. I'm not sure if this will push Ahri back into the meta, but it should be nice for her originally, and then hopefully, if it's not enough, they can revisit this and maybe add more power into the numbers itself. Okay, so Ashe received a nerf. It's really obvious here. Base attack damage was decreased. Very standard nerf right here. Ashe is super strong, especially early game. Her lane phase is pretty much unmatched besides for Caitlyn, and nerfing her attack damage by 2 is actually pretty strong. A lot of people really joke about these types of nerfs, like 2 AD, 3 AD, 5 MS, and they kind of meme them, but in reality these nerfs are actually substantial, because if you think about every single time that they auto attack, not only auto attack enemy champions, auto attack minions when they're pushing, your attack damage, a lot of times your ability scale with your attack damage. So this will actually end up reducing her laning phase prowess by a little bit. Galio then received a nerf as well. Q base damage decreased, so they're hitting the wave clear of the Q. And yeah, we'll read the description here. It says Galio's Q let him clear waves early without much risk, so we're bringing down his damage so that he has to invest a bit more before flying across the map. So not the end of the world. I mean, you'll still be able to push with your passive and stuff like that, but definitely not the wave clear that you had before. Shouldn't be too big overall. Okay, Jarvan received a Q base damage buff, So yeah, it's just a little nudge to Jarvan's early strength to help compete with the current jungle meta. Now this is something that people have noticed, that Jarvan has just kind of fallen out of the meta. This is a champion that normally doesn't really receive many buffs and nerfs. It just kind of falls in and out of the meta depending on what else is strong. And right now, there really hasn't been a reason to pick Jarvan. The only time you'll see him is if there's a lot of bans in junglers, for junglers specifically. Like champions like Set kind of just do Jarvan's job, but better. But this actually helps him a lot. 10 base damage on your Q, gonna really help with like the early clears and things like that. Obviously, you're gonna max out your Q, so it's not gonna necessarily do anything later on. But especially early game, I think this will be really nice, especially first clear. Okay, the next champion that was changed was Kayle. You have the Q mana restore, which was removed. W cost increased, E cost removed, missile speed increased. Okay, so I actually saw some people complaining about this on Reddit because even though it's not a popular build, Mana Moon is no longer stackable with your E. So for example, other champions like Kassadin, they put 1 mana cost on your W so that you're able to actually like stack your tier if you decide to go for that build. This build is now pretty much dead for Kayle in general because of this change. But yeah, we'll go into the specific things. So Q no longer mana restores, no longer restores 30% of the mana cost for each enemy champion hit. So you don't gain as much mana from your Q, but you have no mana on your E, so it makes your harassing with E a lot better in the early game. I would say overall, this would probably be a buff for Kayle. Celestial Blessing received a slight increase in mana, so even though this is increased by 20 mana, which is not an ability that you actually max and win, but even though this is increased by 20 mana, you're losing its 50 mana decrease on your E, so you're still probably going to be dealing with less mana. You're not as reliant on landing multiple Qs on the person to sustain your mana in lane. Next champion is KogMaw. Base health and armor growth decrease, just these standard KogMaw nerfs. Now I don't really like nerfing KogMaw because we're not really seeing this champion in the meta. Sure, it has good base stats, but that's kind of necessary for the champion. It's super immobile, doesn't have many ways to peel itself. If you look at other immobile champions such as Ashe, you're able to peel yourself a lot easier with your ult, constant Ws, like you have constant slows, and it helps you out a lot in being able to actually protect yourself. Whereas KogMaw, the main reason you don't see it is because it is so easy to just jump on one shot. So nerfing the base stats, I think that was kind of the only thing that was going for him, and I just didn't really see KogMaw as OP, so not really happy with these nerfs. Don't think it really makes much sense. Misfortune received small stat changes as well. Base attack speed growth increased, so yeah, this is just nice for early laning. The attack speed growth, or actually, I mean, it's going to scale throughout the game, so it'll be decent for MF, but a lot of the times you're not attacking a ton with MF in the game, so don't think it will change her priority at all. I think people are still going to prioritize the same things that they prioritized before. Small buff here. So maximum bonus movement speed went from 50 to 55 at level 1, scaling up to 95 at max level, so 5 increased per level, so decent there for MF. Some quality of life buffs, don't think it will change that much in terms of like her lane matchups or her priority in terms of champion selection. Okay, so we actually have Rumble buffs. So right after the season ends for Huni, they buff his champion. Pretty sad for him, but these are actually pretty substantial. So Q is buffed for Rumble, which is his Flame Spitter. It starts now at 180 instead of 175, so 5 damage buff at level 1, but it ends up being a 25 damage buff at max level, so it's 5 increase per level, which is pretty good for Rumble. I mean, Rumble's the type of champion where it comes in and out of the meta based on what else is like, if people are able to actually like lane verse it. This champion is super lane dominant, and then early game it's like insane in team fights. Definitely think that this might change people's priority on it, especially top lane. Rumble's always been a champion that's like pretty decent into tanks, and with these buffs you're gonna get more damage in the early game. It's gonna make those lane phases even rougher for top laners. And yeah, the next champion that is being changed is Set. Set, super OP. We've been seeing it in 4 positions. Any champion like this, you always want to see some type of change to, because that's just the indicator of whether a champion is broken or not. If you see a champion being like OP or extremely playable in 4 positions, it means that the champion itself is just inherently broken. The passive right punch changed to scale with bonus attack damage, so this is a nerf to tank set, which is what most people are playing. Not many people have been playing top lane set outside of C9, and we saw how that worked with them. But yeah, most people have been playing mainly tank set, like tank mid or full tank jungle. So now they nerfed the passive right punch that you get every single time. Q, bonus damage ratio of target's maximum health now fixed. Bonus damage ratio per 100 total attack damage now scales. Okay, so apparently that was a bug that was making it do more damage than intended. So right punch bonus damage ratio used to have a 0.15 total attack damage scaling. Now it's 0.5 bonus attack damage. So if you are stacking that AD, champion will do a lot more damage. The Q was changed as well, as stated before, which is knuckle down. The bonus damage has been changed for the same base value, but instead of having 1 to 5% of the target's maximum health, it went to 1 to 3% per 100 total attack damage. So if you do have like let's say you get a blade into Triforce or something like that, it will be starting to out damage at those later ratios. So like let's say you have 200 AD on your champion, it will then just be stronger than the original Q at 6% instead of 5%. Shen, you have a passive shield decrease. Now this was something that made Shen super strong, was the ability to just use your passive over and over again. People understand how to trade, and you could essentially just win top lane by trading more often than the enemy champion because they had to wait for longer cooldowns, etc. And the passive was so strong. So this is one of the reasons Shen was super OP in the meta, and they just have reduced the amount of shielding that you get at levels 1 to 18. It's just a 10 HP nerf to the shield at every rank. Okay, so the Shyvana changes, I actually read through these beforehand just to make sure I was getting them correctly. Essentially what it boils down to is that they're changing the visuals of the radius to be more indicative of what they actually are in game, so it'll be more representative of the actual ability. And in terms of the small changes here, the main things that you're looking at is that this will be a buff to AD Shyvana and a nerf to AP Shyvana, although it's pretty slight. And yeah, if you just read through it, essentially what it's saying is that before the cast, the visuals didn't actually line up perfectly with how the ability actually was in game, and now they've changed it to theoretically be more representative of what the ability does and how it should look. Next change is Twitch. Now this is actually really different. So Twitch was changed to now have an AP ratio on the E. So the E damage per stack ratio increased. R bolt damage reduction per enemy hit decreased. It seems we've left the rat in the sewers, and we know his paws are itching to get back in the meta. We're bringing up the power in his ult and tossing in some spice to his E. Now here's the spell you can actually feel. So the first thing that I see when I see a change like this is I wonder if they just are trying to force people to be more willing to go Ginsu's Twitch, because I don't know where else you'd get AP from. That's probably the only thing that makes sense to me, would be like maybe a Ginsu's Twitch could work a little bit. So yeah, maybe we'll see some people trying out this build. I don't think that there's any room for AP Twitch. It doesn't look that different. Like it doesn't look like it's enough of a buff to warrant an AP Twitch, but maybe you'll see like Ginsu's built on the champion every now and then. And obviously the buff to the ult really helps a lot. I really like the fact that they're trying to put more power into it. Twitch ult just feels really bad to use. If you play a lot of Twitch, you'll know how it is. A lot of times with you trying to auto attack people, sometimes people are walking out of your auto attack. They can walk to the side and your auto attacks won't hit. So any type of way that they can change the ult or buff it a little bit, I think is definitely worthwhile. And the last champion that was changed on this patch was Xin Zhao. Small increase to his W thrust damage. Obviously Xin, we haven't seen it in forever. It's the type of champion that is either going to be played all the time or not played at all, because there's not much counterplay to the kit, and there's not much playmaking potential to the kit. There's not a huge amount of difference between like a gold Xin Zhao and a challenger Xin Zhao in terms of like actual mechanics. So yeah, we haven't been seeing him at all because people just kind of have thrown him to the side. Don't think he's that good compared to a lot of the other things you can pick early game. It's kind of like the thing that we were talking about with Jarvan earlier. It's like, why play Xin or Jarvan when you could just play Set or even Volibear, Graves, all these other champions. But this is a pretty decent buff. 10 damage at level 1. And yeah, it just stays at 10 damage per level after that. So yeah, the 10 damage buff is actually pretty substantial when you consider how much this will impact his clear and how this will impact his trades. You'll definitely see more powerful Xin Zhaos in the early game. And yeah, that will be the last thing that we cover on the patch notes. There was one change to runes, which was just the Guardian change. It's a small nerf to Guardian. Guardian is overperforming on Mage, Enchanters, and Tank supports relative to other keystones. We're toning it down in terms of its power to open up other options. So yeah, this is going to be kind of something that's going to hit more of like the Luxes of the world that are now going Guardian, and yeah, you might see more Comet on those types of champions specifically. Thanks for watching. Hope this helped you guys understand patch 10.18 a little bit better. There's a new Cloud9 app that is now available in the App Store, so check it out to get all your new Cloud9 updates.